Hey YouTube, it's Icy, and welcome to the 201st episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors. Starting off, before we begin, some of you may have already noticed last week and in actually some of my more recent videos, I have started using a new intro. It was created by my friend, and if you guys enjoyed the intro, I'm sure he'd love it if you'd subscribe to him at youtube.com/creativesidepro. Alright, and getting right into this episode, I wanted to say that there will be annotations throughout this video to actually fast forward and rewind to certain parts of it, because at the end I will be discussing jailbreaking iOS 7.1.2 and 7.1.3 more in depth, kind of giving a recap as well as mentioning some new information and some new analysis regarding the upcoming untethered jailbreak patch in the form of iOS 7.1.3. Alright, and first up, let's actually talk about unlocking. So in last week's episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors, I mentioned that the Unlocking Consumer Choice and Wireless Competition Act passed with unanimous approval. And essentially what this bill will do is re-legalize the unlocking of a smartphone. And for those of you that didn't know, in 2013 when the DMCA, or Digital Millennium Copyright Act, was up for review, a portion of it didn't get renewed that essentially allowed for the unlocking of smartphones. Well, now, following its unanimous approval, the bill will be signed into law by President Obama, and that was new information as of Friday. So yes, it looks like we will be able to unlock our smartphones again, and in this case, I'm betting what the majority of you guys are interested in is actually unlocking iPhones. So yes, hopefully new services will propagate across the web in the weeks and months to come that will allow for unlocking iPhones and the use of iPhones on other carriers besides the ones that they were initially sold on. And now moving on, I actually wanted to talk about something very much related, the upcoming iPhone 6. I actually obtained a part straight from Apple's supply chain in China. It's the rear housing, and following my exclusive in-depth HD look and comparison between the leaked iPhone 6 back housing and the corresponding component from the iPhone 5S, I created a new video that dispels a recent rumor suggesting that the rear Apple logo will light up and provide an indicator for notifications without actually directly interfacing with the device itself. And also in that video, I mentioned the overall thickness of the iPhone 6 and compared it against that of the iPhone 5S. So again, if you want more information on the rear shell itself, including details regarding its authenticity, as well as information surrounding the rear-facing Apple logo and rumors suggesting it could glow for notifications, just be sure to check out my two recent videos. And speaking of recent videos, I created another one actually unboxing Apple's latest mid-2014 Retina MacBook Pro. And this is the first time the company has refreshed their Retina MacBook Pro in 2014, and it just received some minor upgrades as well as price cuts. The most substantial price cut being for the lower end 15-inch MacBook Pro, and although it's not explicitly stated, because it is bumped up to 16 gigabytes of RAM while maintaining the previous pricing structure, that is a $200 savings. And if you're interested in watching me unbox the latest Retina equipped MacBook Pro, and you also want a link to get a slight discount on the laptop, just be sure to check out the video. Again, I will have a link to that below as well as on my channel. And now let's move on to discuss jailbreaking. So as I'm sure the majority of you are already aware by now, Pangu was released by a new Chinese dev team by the name of Pangu, and it fully functions on iOS 7.1 as well as 7.1.1 and the latest public firmware at the time of recording this video being iOS 7.1.2. But again, I'm sure most of you knew that already, as well as the fact that Apple is preparing to release iOS 7.1.3 to the public to effectively patch the Pangu jailbreak. And in last week's episode of Best Tech Info and Rumors, I discussed that matter in addition to why certain jailbreaks are left unpatched long beyond the time it would actually take Apple to patch said jailbreaks, while others are patched near immediately. So if you happen to miss that, I recommend watching that segment on jailbreaking before this one, because I'm mostly going to be talking about, again, iOS 7.1.3, which should be coming soon to patch iOS 7.1.2. Based on my personal and professional experience, though, I would have thought that Apple would have already released iOS 7.1.3. That's not the case, and we have seen this before, actually, with Absinthe 2 for iOS 5.1.1, which was released by the Quantum Chronic dev team. Apple actually left Absinthe 2 fully unpatched until they released iOS 6 to the public. However, don't get your hopes up that the company will do the same thing this time around with iOS 7, as they did eventually patch the original Evasion jailbreak utility that functioned on 6.0 through 6.1.2, as well as the tool's sequel, Evasion 7 for iOS 7.0 through 7.0.6. So as I've said before in previous videos, don't get too comfortable with the current situation, and if you want to jailbreak iOS 7.1.x, just be sure to do so now, as Apple will most likely patch it with iOS 7.1.3 in the foreseeable future. So again, like I said before, if you haven't jailbroken your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch, just be sure to watch my video. I will have a link to below, and it can be found on my channel. It will walk you through all of the required steps to fully jailbreak untethered on any device. And now I also wanted to talk about the iPhone 6 and kind of remind you guys of some things before we conclude. So first of all, even though the rear shell that I did receive, leak, and create 2 separate videos on was straight from Apple's supply chain in China, it's definitely possible that Apple could switch things up. However, last year when these components were leaking, they ended up being official. Like with every year though, until Apple officially announces the iPhone 6 on stage during the fall, nothing is confirmed and everything could change. So just keep that in mind, and if you guys are interested in my $100 Amazon gift card giveaway, just be sure to rate this video up and leave a relevant comment down below in the comment section. Once your comment's been posted, you'll be automatically entered to win. And also don't forget to download Free App Life. So if you're interested in earning paid apps for free, just be sure to visit bit.ly/getfreeapplife or freeapplife.com inside of mobile Safari. And then once downloaded, install sponsored apps for points and then redeem said points for various prizes, including paid apps, gift cards, and bigger electronic devices. All right, and that's it for this episode. Don't forget there's been a lot of coverage on my channel since last week. Just be sure to check it out. And if you guys are interested in being updated more often, such as when I create new videos and cover various things like jailbreak and iPhone related topics, just be sure to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, add me in one of your circles inside of Google+, follow me on Instagram at ICUID, and subscribe to my secondary YouTube channel at youtube.com/ICUID. And until next time, this is ICU signing out.